Hello, this is Tom Britt. West Tennessee PBS is working hard to bring you more local shows and quality PBS programs. And they need your financial help because they don't run commercials, they rely on your support. It's easy to donate. Go to their website, westtnpbs.org, and click on the Donate tab. Your donations to Channel 11 stay local and help WLJT-TV continue their mission to be as local as possible.
Good afternoon, Rotarians and guests. Good afternoon. All right, we're getting better with time. I have the distinct pleasure of introducing one of my friends today, Mr. Monty Cooper. He is president of Jackson Energy Authority. He has served as a board member for the Boys and Girls Club, and he is homegrown here in Jackson. Let's give it up for Monty, right? Now, he is a 1991 graduate of Southside High School. He's a graduate of the University of Tennessee. He has a BS in electrical engineering, and he has a master's in business administration from the University of Tennessee at Martin. Did I hear anybody else? Okay. Monty and his wife, Shay, have been married for 32 years and have 3 children, Cassidy, Trey, and Will, and 2 grandchildren, Cade, Cooper, and Jack Green. Monty enjoys camping, coaching youth sports, and serving at First Baptist Church of Jackson. Y'all, let's give it up for Monty.
Thank you, Sabrina. So I gotta tell about how we met, right? So I'm going back. You're not going to believe this. It's been 22 years. So I was going through, because it was in 2004, I was going through Leadership Jackson. And you know, in Leadership Jackson, you pick your nonprofits that you want to go tour and learn more about. I said, I want to go to the Boys and Girls Club. So Sabrina gave just an unbelievable, as you can imagine, tour of the Boys and Girls Club. And at the end of it, I said, hey, Sabrina, I'm Monty Cooper. You know, I work at Jackson Energy Authority. I said, and I went to the club when I was growing up. And she said, what? I said, yeah, I went to the Boys and Girls when it was at Westwood Gardens. And so we talked about that, and she was like, all right, you need to be on the board. I'm like, okay. And then she put me on a billboard, and then we've been best friends ever since. So I love that. Now, today, one of the things, we love being able to talk about our products. We got a lot of products at JEA, and they all deserve their individual time. And so a few weeks ago, we were at the chamber at a board meeting. And it was the station, the Clear Tap station was asked about. You know, what's going on with that? So I shared with the group, and it's a relatively new kind of campaign that we have. And they said, hey, would you want to come talk to Rotary about it? Well, absolutely. We always want to talk about our water. It's the best, you know, it's the best there is. And so I didn't feel real good about taking the credit for that. So I was like, can I bring Robert Mullins with me? And sure. So I want to, you know, go through this and kind of set the stage for Robert, but then also introduce him. So Robert Mullins is our Senior Vice President of the Water Division. He's also the Senior Vice President of the Wastewater Division, so wearing 2 hats. I know those sound similar. They are drastically different. So he wears 2 hats at JEA, leading both of those divisions. But ClearTap, of course, is something that Robert came back from a conference. He took over that role as Senior VP about 2 years ago after Steve Raper, and many of you know Steve, retired. And so Robert goes to a meeting in Kentucky, I believe it was, and comes back and says, hey, I got something I want to talk to you about. He said, Louisville has branded their water, and I forget the name of it. He said, but their water's nasty. And our water's outstanding. And he's going to explain real quickly what, you know, in a minute, what the difference is between those two. He said, but I think that we ought to brand our water. And I said, you know, you're right. I mean, it's a tremendous asset. We're blessed. Yeah, we think that we're good at JEA, and we are, but we're blessed with the resource that we have and where we start from, which is the Memphis Sands Aquifer, of a great product to bring up and be able to deliver to our community. And not a lot of people have that. So, Robert, a few things about Robert. Robert is also a Southside High School graduate. He and I have been both been at JEA for about the same amount of time. We'll both be celebrating 30 years this calendar year with JEA. Now, Dr. Kirkland, he was on his way to UT Knoxville, but his car broke down in Cookeville, so he's a UT Tech grad. But he's an avid ball fan, so we include him in the club there. But no, we appreciate everything. Robert's history at JEA. He's a civil engineer. He has worked in several departments just like I have, operations, engineering, and of course now in our admin group. He's married to Becky. They have 2 daughters, Abby and Katie, who are grown and doing their, leaving their mark on society with successful careers that have started. So if you would, join me in welcoming Robert Mullins.
Thank you, Sabrina. I appreciate that. And thank you, Monty, for that introduction. So it's good to see everyone. I know a lot of faces in here, some faces I don't, so look forward to meeting you. But I'm excited to come talk to you about our water. I'm from Jackson. I realize the resource we have here in Jackson, and I don't think we celebrate it enough, right? Monty mentioned some other people's water, and they celebrate their water, and I'm like, man, Jackson, we have the best water around, and we should celebrate it. We should advertise it, right? So that's kind of what this campaign is about that we started last summer. So if you will see in the right-hand side of that slide, Clear Tap. That is what we have branded Jackson's water. It's a federal trademark, and a shameless plug, the cups you're drinking out of today, you'll notice that logo on that cup. And so we're doing a lot of things in the community to promote our water, and I want to share some of that stuff with you that we're doing in the community, but also share why we think our water is special.
Clean, refreshing, essential for life. Water. Naturally recycled on Earth since day one. Our water is truly an extraordinary resource, connecting health and quality of life in our community. Maintaining this safe drinking water for today and our future requires experience and skill for this system of pipes, pumps, and tanks, treatment and testing for the highest quality, achieving award-winning best-tasting water, expertise and technology to monitor and control operations for system reliability, dedication to safety and protection to serve our community. A commitment that connects us all the way to the tap and the hydrant, caring for every drop, protecting our ground source, preserving it for the future. It's Jackson Energy Authority, Water Service.
So after Steve Bowers, we could stop there, right? I mean, nobody does it better than Steve Bowers. So that's a video that we like to share. But Monty mentioned best tasting water, and I want to touch on that for a second. So in our organization, we have American Water Works, and they're broken up into different sections across the state. So there's a Tennessee, Kentucky section of American Water Works. Have a conference every year, and all the systems that want to submit in Tennessee and Kentucky can bring a sample of their water for a blind taste test among our peers. So we did that in 2025, and I'm proud to announce that we barely won first place. Barely won first place. So it was one of our South water plants that barely won first. And the reason I say barely is because it was a taste-off between our South plant and our North plant. So we barely won first, but we won first and second by a mile. So here's the trophies that Jackson is officially recognized in Tennessee and Kentucky as having the best tasting water. So what a better time to celebrate. So I mentioned our logo and what we're doing in the community and what we're trying to do and make people aware of our water and what kind of resource that is, whether it's residents that want to move to Jackson, Madison County, whether it's a commercial business, or whether it's an industry that I want them to know what kind of water we have and what kind of resource. And as much as I'm proud of our employees that we have at JEA, and I know they do a wonderful job with our treatment plants, with our distribution system, we also have a great resource that we're sitting on top of, right, in Jackson, Tennessee with our aquifer. How many of you have wells at your house and not on city water? Okay, several of you, right? So you know that quality of water that you have out of your well. The same aquifer that JEA draws out of, the same high quality that we draw out of. So it's a great resource. So for just a few minutes, I'm going to talk about that resource and show you a few things we're doing to advertise this. And as you think about this, think of ways that you could help promote Jackson water. You could promote to people coming into town, to industry, Kyle, to different people that want to come in and know what kind of resource we have here. So just real quick, going way back in history here. So if you look at, I just want to give you a feel for the resource that we have. So if you take the the earth there, the volume of the earth that's shown as, I guess, kind of the brownish green, that's the land mass of the earth. If you look at that large blue dot, that is the amount of water that is on the earth in proportion to the size of the land mass, right? You take the ocean and you say, okay, how much volume of land, how much volume of water, including oceans? That's the big blue dot. You look at the dot just over Kentucky. If y'all can see that, that may be hard to see. That is the volume of water that we have that's fresh water that we can reach, that we can tap into. The amount of that fresh water that's drinkable is that small dot over Atlanta, if you can see that. So when I talk about resource, and we hear all the stories out west and water shortages, we hear people that are desalinating water, we have a great resource, and it's limited supply in other places where in Jackson it's not. So real quick on our aquifer, I mentioned what we set on top of the aquifer. We set on top of the Memphis Sands. Monty mentioned that you can see kind of coming through West Tennessee. And you see other variable aquifers across the United States. It doesn't mean they're drinkable, right? It means that there's water there, but the quality may not be what it is here in Jackson. Zooming in on that, that's that same aquifer, just looking a little bit closer. And if you can identify Madison County and our eastern border of Madison County, that aquifer ends on the Madison County eastern border. So you think of Lexington, you think of the cities along the river are all drawing surface water, where we're fortunate to be able to draw from groundwater that's been treated by the earth and by the sands for hundreds of years before we draw out. We talk about our resource, and I stopped by this morning to read the sign. If you've ever been to the fountain on Royal Street, it was there in 1885. People used to come to Jackson to that fountain for what ails them, right? It would make them well. It used to be Lancaster Park downtown, and the first water plant was actually built in the early 1900s right here on this site where this is on Royal, just north of the fairgrounds. So we draw our water from the aquifer about 300 feet deep. It's about 100 years old when we draw it out, and it is pristine and clean from the second that we bring it out of the ground, and great tasting as well. So like I said, our staff does a great job in keeping it reliable, keeping the quantity there, but also we draw from a wonderful water source in Jackson. Another thing that we do is we have to protect that source, right? Whatever gets poured on the ground eventually goes and seeps into the ground, into the water, right? So just one fact to know there is that 1 quart of motor oil will contaminate 1 million gallons of water and make it undrinkable. And I think back to when I was a kid helping my dad change the oil in the car, right? And we had a fence row that had briar, didn't have Roundup, back then, and we would just take the used oil and pour it on the vines to keep the vines from growing in the yard, right? So we have to protect our source. And what we do every year is we review our source plan. We have 20 wells in Jackson, and this peacock looking, we have a south plant and a north plant. That is 10 years worth of travel for our water. So the wells will be at the bottom left of that picture, and that is the underground area that we're drawing from for a period of 10 years. So we track everybody in that area, all the underground storage tanks, any industry, to protect the resource that we have here in Jackson. We also have elevated storage, one across the mall. You've probably all seen, several scattered across the city. This is the most recent at the Airport Industrial Park. So not only do we have great quality water, we also have abundance, and we also have great pressure, great supply, great redundancy. One thing many people don't think about when they think of water is fire protection. So the same system that you drink from out of your house also provides our fire hydrants, which had an ISO survey for our wonderful fire department last year and received a great rating for our fire department, which the water supply was a great part of that survey as well. This is our water service territory. You see that we serve most of Madison County, most of downtown. Probably the biggest portion that we do not serve is the least populated area towards the south and the west, but we also serve up into Medina and Three-Way area as well with our water system. So I'm going to share with you a few things that we're doing to advertise ClearTap. This is our first year. I would love to roll this out huge and in a bunch. There's only so many marketing resources that we can do, so it takes time and it takes effort. So You see on the left there our JEA Training Center. We have a water dispenser. Before I took over, and I laugh with Monty about this, before I took over with on water, a lot of people use our training center, right? And I would go down there and see somebody drinking a bottled water, and it just hurt my heart. So like, we have to get a fountain there that celebrates what we have and drink like a local. So the middle there is community events. Gentleman back there mentioned a 5K this weekend. So some things like that we'd like to advertise. If you have an event, you have something that you need water, you need to display anything, feel free to come get these coolers, and you can help us share our message with events you might have in town. Again, there's the cup that we're all drinking out of today. Monty mentioned the filler at the Greater Jackson Chamber that's there in the main, I guess called the auditorium, the main conference room there. Some different things, wrapping bottle fillers, wrapping fountains, and then a bigger water dispenser that's there on the right. And lastly, a few other things. We have t-shirts we given to our employees. So what we've done so far is kind of roll it out to our employees, let our employees know what this is about, and then start rolling that out to the community here in 2026. Water bottles, you see the filling station at the lift there on your far right, that's right there by the treadmills. That's actually a Photoshop picture. That's what's gonna be there. So if you're at the lift and that's not there, it didn't get taken down. That's just a representation of what that'll look like. So with that, I will wrap it up and see if anybody has any questions. Yes, sir.
You mentioned about the aquifer, but then you said you said land water. So is that like it's coming from like the lakes in Lexington? When you said land water, what is that?
Right, so we draw from underground, right? And a lot of people think an aquifer is just a big underground lake. It's actually saturated sands. Think of beach sand, that white, pristine sand. That's what our aquifer actually is. That sand runs out the further you go to the east, get to the east of Madison County. So when they drill down, they don't have that sand and that water-bearing sand, so they have to draw. Lexington draws from Beach Lake, for example. So when I say surface water, it's more Tennessee River, it's Beach Lake, it's people that don't have an aquifer beneath them like Jackson does. And you can imagine, would you rather treat surface water and drink surface water, or would you rather treat something that drink something nature has treated for 100 years? I know what I would pick, right? So good question, though. Mayor?
I've got two questions. The table had a question as well. When you go to these competitions with the water, how do you transport it to keep it tasting the same, not like containers in? And we think you should bottle our water. And so,
We've thought about that. So to your first question, we transport it in they provide the containers, a glass container. In years past, you would have to transport it chilled, because everybody knows ice cold water is the best, right? So there was some variability in how people were bringing their water to this competition. So they changed that. They give you the same glass bottle, and it has to be at room temperature when they do their taste test. So nobody's is ice cold and somebody's room temperature, and it tastes different when it's that way. So we've thought about bottling water. If you'll notice, the cups that you have on the table are aluminum, kind of sustainable. So when I think of bottling water, I think of plastics. I think of things that are in the environment, things that accumulate. So our goal at first was to say, okay, even the cups we're going to provide are going to be recyclable. So that's kind of steered us away a little bit from bottled waters, because you have that bottled. If I see somebody with a bottled water, I'm not going to look at see if it says Aquafina or if it says Clear Tap. I'm just kind of seeing bottled water. So that's kind of my holdback on that for right now. Yeah. Yes, sir. Yes, we are. That's a good question. So EPA set a new rule to comply in 2031 for what he's referring to as PFAs. I would say I'm not even trying to say the chemical name. It's about that long. So when you think about PFAS, what it is actually a chemical that I'm going to say there were three major companies, DuPont, 3M, and Tyco. Think of Teflon skillets, think of Scotchgard, think of waterproof clothing. That just like anything that were great industrial inventions, eventually people think, should we be drinking that or should we not be drinking that? So we do test for PFAS. In our South plant, there are trace levels of PFAS. So when you look at EPA's new rule, they set that in parts per trillion. of what they're detecting for. Scientific methods are just now able to detect parts per trillion. We look for chlorine, we look for other things in parts per million. So they're detecting parts per trillion, and in parts per trillion, we do have trace amounts at our south plant that we will have to treat prior to 2031. But as far as exposure level for a human, if you pop popcorn in a microwave bag, you get a wrapper from McDonald's, that exposure to PFAS is a lot more than a trace amount in drinking water. But still, we have to comply with what EPA sets forth. Yes?
Is the aquifer constant as far as the size of it?
It is. It is. It's basically confined by where the sand is. You know, the sand that we draw from, a private well is going to be about 100 feet deep. We're drawing from about 300 feet deep. So you think of a 200-foot layer of white sand. And we've tested that aquifer through droughts, through wet periods. And so we actually monitor the level of it to see, is the aquifer getting lower? Is it filling? Is it, in over 20 years, regardless of drought or how much we're pumping, that volume stays the same. Just to give you an example, underground, that water travels 2 feet per year. It's traveling towards Memphis. So if you think that volume is so huge that it's actually moving to the south and the west 2 feet a year underground. So the volume is just extraordinary of the water underground. I had some more questions there. Right. So when we pump our water, it's actually about a 5.7 pH, which is lower than neutral, right? Lower than your body pH. So what we do is add naturally occurring lime. It's a powdered lime that we get from Mississippi. And so we add that to raise the pH to about 7.2, which is very close to what your body pH is. So it's basically neutral when the customers get it. Yes, sir.
Ron, glad to have you here today, and I've known you since you were a little boy.
Sure, it's been a long time. Yeah, that's right.
But out in Denison, I know we have a test water well out there, water tower, and it only goes so far out west. The chance of getting JEA water spread throughout Madison County, just in the county.
Right. Yeah, we look for places. So basically with the water system, it's about density of customers, right? Water mains are expensive to run. So if we have to cover, I guess where it becomes financially not feasible is, say, to get to some rural area, we run 3 miles and we pick up 2 customers. The price of that is not beneficial for us to do that. We'll be losing a lot of money that other ratepayers will have to pay, right? So we kind of density drives where water mains go. So as we get to rural areas, that becomes more challenging when you cover so much area with so few customers. So we do look for opportunities, though, where that presents itself. Yeah. Yes, sir.
I've heard a lot of discussion about XAI and potential impact on the aquifer. Is that a realistic concern, or is that overblown in your estimation?
I think from a volume of water standpoint, Memphis is in the same aquifer we're in, and the aquifer in Memphis is actually a lot thicker there. There's more quantity of water under Memphis than there is under Jackson. So in my personal opinion, those are more environmentalists that are concerned about we should treat this, and I agree with them that it's a resource, it's not something to be wasted. But as far as the volume running out or them drawing too much volume and it hurting Memphis or hurting other cities, the practicality's not there for volume reasons. But I agree from an environmental standpoint, this water, and I started not to say this, but I say it since you answered that question. This one concerns me, Monty. No, this one. So I will say that every drop of water that you drink has been drank before. Sorry to say that. I'm so sorry to say that. That was not in my script to say that, because people think about that and say, like, I don't know. But you think dinosaurs, right? When dinosaurs roam this earth, they drink the same water that we drink today. Nature has a process of filtering that water. We have a process of cleaning that water. So it's more about the environment and treating this resource, where I mentioned the oil. We should treat this like it's a very, very valuable resource that we know people that don't have it treat it a lot more like a resource than what we do in abundance. So, yes, Frank.
We're on the new Maverick
We're sand.
We are sand. We have a lot of silt deposited here in West Tennessee. So we have what they call, I will say for our water plants, we go through earthquake studies, seismic studies to say one of the most important things during an earthquake is fire protection, health and sanitation. So we build our facilities to withstand worst case, right? So we're in Jackson, we do everything we can to have reliable water. But what they expect to occur in West Tennessee is what they call liquefaction. When you take sand, imagine if you had a bucket of sand and put something on top and you shook it, it slowly starts sinking in that sand. So I don't know if the sinking in the sand is worse than shaking violently. Hopefully we'll never experience that. But we're prone to liquefaction more so than the huge impact of something solid like bedrock or limestone that would shake that violent. We're more to our structure sinking in West Tennessee.
Time for one more.
Thank you very much for the great questions.
The program you've been watching was made possible through the generous financial support of West Tennessee PBS viewers like you. Please visit westtnpbs.org and make a donation today so that we can continue to make local programs like this possible. Thank you.